Hello everyone, tonight we journey into a place most of us know well, a hotel. A building where travelers stop for the night, where weary guests seek rest, where laughter fills the halls during weddings and conferences, and where lives briefly cross paths before moving on. Hotels are supposed to be places of comfort and transience. But what if there are hotels where time itself does not flow as we know it? Hotels where guests check in but never check out, where rooms remain frozen as if the clock stopped ticking decades ago, and where shadows of the past linger, refusing to leave. This is the chilling mystery of the hotel where time stood still. To begin, let us paint the image of such a place. Imagine walking into the grand lobby of a once glorious hotel. The chandeliers hang with dust, their crystals dim as though the light abandoned them. The reception desk stands ready, but the bell never rings. The leather chairs are worn, their cushions sunken from countless bodies that may never have left. The air is heavy, as if filled with the weight of forgotten conversations. And most disturbing of all, you feel as though you are not alone, though no one stands before you. Throughout history, there have been countless stories of haunted hotels, abandoned lodges, and mysterious inns where guests disappeared without explanation. But our story tonight is more than a ghost tale. It is about time itself, because in these places, the strangest detail is not simply that people vanish. It is that the space they leave behind appears untouched by the passing years. Food left on tables remains fresh, clocks show the same hour, and personal belongings lie exactly where they were dropped, as if the guest stepped out of existence in a single instant. One of the most famous cases that sparked global fascination was the Grand Hotel in Pira, Istanbul. Travelers in the 19th century described stepping into rooms where the clock stopped, mirrors were covered, and whispers echoed down empty halls. Guests who stayed there sometimes awoke to find themselves in different decades, seeing figures in outdated clothing, or hearing music from long-forgotten eras. Some claimed they had conversations with other guests, only to realize those people had been dead for generations. Another chilling story comes from the American South, where an old plantation hotel was said to have rooms that could not be rented out. Whenever a guest was assigned one of these rooms, they would vanish overnight, leaving luggage and belongings behind. Staff whispered that the room itself was cursed, a pocket where time folded in on itself, trapping those who entered. To this day, locals refuse to step across its threshold. But these legends are not confined to one region. In Europe, particularly in the Scottish Highlands, stories abound of inns where travelers vanished in storms, their last known location being a warm bed and a friendly smile from the innkeeper. Yet when others returned to investigate, they found rooms layered with dust, as if untouched for centuries. What happened to those guests? Did they walk out into the storm and perish? Or were they caught in something far stranger? Something that suspended them between past and present, leaving only a silent room as evidence? We must pause here to ask, how does one explain the phenomenon of time standing still? Science tells us time is constant, measurable, a steady march forward. Yet physicists also whisper of anomalies, black holes, wormholes, and distortions of space-time that can twist reality itself. Could it be possible that certain locations on Earth act as natural portals, bending time and trapping those unlucky enough to enter? If so, a hotel with its endless rooms and corridors might be the perfect stage for such an anomaly. Consider the chilling case of a French couple in the 1970s who reported staying in a small country inn while traveling. They described wooden furnishings, oil lamps, and waiters in outdated uniforms. They enjoyed a quiet night, only to return later on another trip and discover the inn had not existed for over 50 years. The building had burned down decades before, and yet they remembered their stay vividly, even possessing receipts written on old stationery. Did they slip back in time, or had the inn itself become a frozen pocket where the past lingered? These accounts share unsettling similarities, places where time seems disjointed, where guests enter but never leave, or where reality itself blurs. And every time the story carries with it an air of warning. Hotels, after all, are transient by design, temporary shelters for temporary lives. Perhaps that makes them fragile points where the veil between worlds is thinner, where people can be lost more easily. But beyond folklore and ghost stories, let us not ignore the darker possibilities of human involvement. History records many hotels where disappearances occurred under mysterious circumstances. Some speculate these places were fronts for criminal organizations, where guests were silenced and their rooms cleaned to appear untouched. Yet even in these cases, witnesses report the uncanny detail of time itself seeming wrong. Clocks frozen, lights flickering, hallways echoing with voices that shouldn't exist. One particularly disturbing story comes from Eastern Europe, where investigators entered an abandoned hotel in the 1990s after repeated reports of strange lights. They found tables set with meals that had not spoiled, wine glasses half full, and beds turned down as if expecting guests. Yet the building had been closed for more than 40 years. Their official report was sealed, but whispers tell of photographs showing entire banquet halls waiting as if a grand event had been paused mid-breath. The more we collect these stories, the clearer a pattern emerges. These hotels are not simply haunted, they are frozen. Time does not move forward, and those who enter may find themselves either erased from our world or trapped in one where centuries mingle together. Perhaps this explains why some guests are said to wander hallways in clothing from other eras, forever lost, forever checking doors that no longer open. But what is most disturbing is that these hotels often appear ordinary to outsiders. Travelers book rooms, check in, smile at receptionists, and only later realize something is terribly wrong. A missing reflection in a mirror, a hallway that stretches endlessly, a clock that never ticks past midnight. At first it seems like a trick of the mind, but soon the realization sets in. They have stepped into a place where rules no longer apply. Now, as we close the first half of our journey, remember this. Time is the one constant we trust above all else. It governs our days, our lives, our very existence. To enter a place where time itself is broken is to step outside the safety of reality. And for those guests who never checked out, perhaps their last awareness was not of death, but of eternity, an endless night in a hotel where the world forgot them. The second part of our story will take us deeper into eyewitness accounts, scientific possibilities, and the chilling theories of what truly happens in these hotels where time stands still. But for now, let us leave the lobby, step back into the night air, and ask ourselves, if you ever found yourself in a hotel where the clocks never moved, would you stay the night, or run before the doors closed behind you forever? The story of the hotel where time stood still grows darker as we step deeper into its echoing halls. In part 1, we explored abandoned lobbies, frozen banquets, and guests who claimed to slip into other decades. Now we will investigate further, piecing together testimonies, scientific theories, and the chilling folklore that surrounds such places. The deeper we go, the clearer one truth becomes: some hotels were never meant for rest. They were traps for eternity. One of the most disturbing testimonies comes from a man in the early 20th century who stayed in a Parisian hotel. He recalled that the room felt strangely silent, as though padded by an invisible force. The clock on the wall remained stuck at 2:17 a.m. No matter how long he stayed awake, the hands never moved. When he finally left the room in panic, the hallway was pitch black, and he could hear faint voices whispering behind closed doors. He fled that night, never returning. Decades later, when he tried to revisit the address, the building was gone, replaced by an empty lot. This is not an isolated tale. Across continents, hotels with similar reputations have been documented. In Japan, there are stories of ryokan inns where travelers claim to meet hosts dressed in clothing from centuries past, only to later discover the inn had been abandoned for decades. In Mexico, an old hacienda-turned-hotel was said to host a single room where guests reported waking up to find the furniture had changed style overnight, reflecting different historical periods. Some awoke surrounded by colonial decor, others in modern furnishings, and a few in stark, ancient emptiness. None of them stayed a second night. The unsettling part of these accounts is their consistency. They all describe places where time fractures. Guests either vanish or they return with stories of disjointed eras blending into one another. Could it be that certain locations sit upon invisible seams in time, cracks where the past and future collide? If so, hotels, always filled with transient lives, might be particularly vulnerable to these distortions. But how does science explain such mysteries? Physicists have long theorized about time anomalies. Wormholes, gravitational distortions, and quantum entanglements could, in theory, bend reality in small pockets. Imagine a hotel built unknowingly on such a fault in time. To outsiders, it looks like an ordinary building. But inside, guests find themselves slipping into a bubble where hours never pass, or where entire centuries overlap. The terrifying part, once inside such a bubble, there may be no way out. Skeptics argue these are hallucinations or tricks of memory. Perhaps old hotels simply inspire imagination. Yet the physical evidence reported, fresh meals in abandoned hotels, clocks forever frozen, photographs of empty lobbies with flickering shadows, suggests something beyond illusion. In one chilling investigation from Eastern Europe, a team entered a sealed hotel and found newspapers from the 1920s lying as crisp as if printed that morning, not yellowed, not decayed, as if time had refused to touch them. Folklore offers another lens. In many cultures, inns and lodges were seen as liminal spaces, doorways between safety and danger, light and darkness. Travelers were warned not to trust every place of shelter, for some were said to belong to spirits who lured mortals inside. Celtic legends tell of fairy inns, where time ran differently. A night's stay might cost 100 years in the outside world. In Middle Eastern stories, jinn are said to inhabit desert way stations, offering hospitality only to trap wanderers forever. These ancient warnings sound eerily similar to modern tales of hotels, where guests never check out. Perhaps the most unsettling pattern is the number of disappearances officially recorded at certain hotels. Police files from around the world mention tourists vanishing from their rooms, their belongings left behind. Official reports cite kidnapping, runaway cases, or accidents. But whispers from staff often tell another story. Locked doors found open, beds turned down with no sleepers, and rooms icy cold despite no broken windows. Hotels rarely advertise such histories, but the legends persist. One case in South America became notorious. Guests who stayed on the fourth floor of a Grand City hotel were reported missing across several decades. Each case followed the same pattern: check-in confirmed, luggage found in the room, but the guest never seen again. Eventually, the entire floor was closed to the public, yet staff claimed to hear footsteps pacing the empty halls at night. Some said they saw shadows moving under the locked doors, as if the vanished guests were still inside, endlessly walking but never escaping. Even modern luxury hotels are not free of such mysteries. In Asia, a 5-star hotel was forced to quietly renovate after repeated complaints from guests who claimed their clocks froze at the same time every night, around 3:11 a.m. Several even reported waking to find figures sitting at the edge of their beds, dressed in clothing decades out of date. Management explained it as urban legend, but staff confided that the room involved had a long history of unexplained deaths and disappearances. What could it all mean? Are these hotels cursed, haunted, or simply unlucky? Or is there truly something stranger, some rupture in time that traps those who enter? Perhaps all of these stories, from Paris to Tokyo, from Mexico to Moscow, point to one truth. There are places where time itself does not behave, and when humans stumble into such places, they risk being erased from history. The horror lies not only in vanishing, but in becoming forgotten. Imagine checking into a hotel, filling out your name, leaving your signature in a ledger, unpacking your suitcase, and then simply ceasing to exist. Outside, your family searches, investigators pore over records, but no one remembers seeing you leave. In the hotel, your room remains made up, your belongings untouched, your bed unslept in as though you were never there. To the world, you have become a ghost of paper, a name without a body, and yet, some who return speak of what they saw. A woman once claimed she spent a night in a lavish suite where guests dined by candlelight, dressed in 19th century finery. She danced to violins and drank champagne, but when she awoke, She was lying on a dusty floor of a ruined hotel alone. Others recall wandering endless hallways, hearing phones ringing in rooms that no longer exist, or watching the wallpaper shift styles before their eyes. These testimonies sound insane, but they repeat across cultures, across time, as though echoing one another. So, what conclusion can we draw? Perhaps the hotel where time stood still is not a single building, but a phenomenon that manifests in many places. A type of trap that appears across the world, luring the curious, the weary, the lost. A reminder that not all doors should be opened, and not every welcome is meant for the living. And so, we end our journey here, at the threshold of a hotel that may still be waiting for its next guest. If you ever find yourself walking into a lobby that feels too quiet, where clocks show the same hour no matter how long you wait, or where the air feels too heavy to breathe, leave before it is too late, because some guests check in, but never check out. And if you stay, time itself may claim you, leaving you trapped forever in a night that never ends.